Just because one post goes viral, that doesn't mean your account's going to be a success.
I'm super happy and honored today to have Rachel Jarrell on my show. She's a full-time injector and board-certified nurse practitioner.
It takes years to feel confident injecting, years.
She has 141,000 organic followers on Instagram, and she does amazing educational and creative content.
My actual big growth happened last October. So I definitely think it's possible if you add value to people. So your content definitely has to stand out. Your pictures have to stand out. It has to be concise.
I was deeply impressed by this one post.
I have a date coming up with a very impressive pair. Dr. Felix Bertram is his, and from him you'll want to hear.
Which she did for Lips and Biz, the event of Julie Horn and me.
I started following marketing experts and I started applying their content to my niche. I studied font psychology. I studied color psychology. I ended up hiring an Instagram coach. I decided that it was worth it for me, and it was the best decision I ever made.
If you are an aesthetic injector, a nurse, a doctor, a dentist, or clinic owner, please sit back and relax. But remember, like every treatment, this podcast comes with a risk. You may end up becoming very successful. Welcome, Rachel.
I feel special that you invited me, so thank you so much.
No, it's an honor for me. I'm really looking forward to this podcast because I think you have amazing insights to share. So my first question is, how did you got inspired to start a career in the aesthetic industry?
My story of getting into aesthetics is kind of long, but I'll make it as short as I can and engaging as I can. So I hated high school when I was younger. I hated high school. I just wanted to get out of it so bad. Not that this matters much, but I was insecure in high school. I never got asked to a single dance in high school. I never really had a boyfriend. It was just awkward for me. And
Unbelievable.
I just didn't like it. And I was like, I just want to go to college early. I want to start college early. So I was about 17 at the time. And there was this really popular drama series that came out. I don't know if it came out there, but it came out in the US and it was called Nip Tuck, and it was all about plastic surgery. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like an amazing dream job. That's what I want to do. I want to go to nursing school and I want to work in plastic surgery. So where I'm from in California, they had an opportunity to test out of high school as long as you were halfway through your junior year or your third year of high school. So I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to test out of high school. You have to pass this proficiency exam. And I did. And I started at 17 at a community college and kind of set my sights on getting into aesthetics one day. So it was inspired by Nip Tuck. And, I grew up with a vain family. We're humble, but we're vain. And so I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And, I powered through and I did all my prerequisites, and it was really hard for me even getting into nursing school. So there were 6 nursing schools in my area. It was really there was a lot of people that wanted to get into nursing school. There was a lot of nursing schools, but I actually didn't even get into one nursing school the first time I applied. I got selected as an alternate, but it was really hard getting in. I got in by the skin of my teeth. And then after that, it took me hundreds of job applications just to get a normal job as a nurse. It was, again, because there were so many nursing schools in my area, it was really competitive. So it took me months to get my first job on night shift on a med-surg department. And anytime I would see a job in aesthetics, I'd look online all the time, I would try to apply for it, but I could never get a job. It was just nobody wanted you unless you had experience. So I went back and I got my bachelor's degree. I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to stand out more. So I went back to school. I got my bachelor's degree, hoping that would help because my first degree was just an associate's. And anyway, so that still didn't help. I still couldn't find a job in aesthetics. And I ended up moving to Texas for cheaper real estate, but was always searching, always applying for aesthetics jobs, even though I wasn't qualified. And finally, after being a nurse for 7 years, and that's the whole reason I went to nursing school. After being a nurse for 7 years, I landed a job in a plastic surgery clinic. And it was I think it was my cover letter that got me in because I clearly didn't have experience in aesthetics. But anyways, all that to say, super long story. But it took me 7 years from getting out of nursing school to actually getting a job in plastic surgery. And that doesn't even count all the prerequisites and things that you have to do before nursing school. So it was a really long journey for me to get the job that I currently have.
It's still super heavy and difficult to get a job in the aesthetics today if you're not experienced. Do you have any insight or key advices how to get a job for nurses who just starting over and want to enter the
Right,
aesthetic industry?
right. Yeah, I get asked this question so much on Instagram by so many people. And so the best advice that I can give is that if you can get a job in any type of plastic surgery office or aesthetics office or cosmetic dermatology or even just regular dermatology, if you can get a job in any capacity, even if it's just like on the surgery side or even if it's just assisting, not necessarily injecting, but you need to take the opportunity to get in any capacity. Because when I got my first job in aesthetics, they didn't even let you inject for the first 3 months. I think you had to be there for 3 months and then they were willing to train you. But if you have any type of aesthetic experience on your resume, it's going to be much easier to get into the field. So even if it's not an injector, you need to take your opportunity to get in. Like I said, I didn't have experience, but what I did have was a really good cover letter. So I told you earlier, I have a kind heart, but I am vain. And so I've been getting stuff done myself since I've been 17. And so I use that to my advantage when writing a cover letter saying, oh, I've been on the receiving end of stuff for however many years. I can relate to patients, I would do people's makeup in high school for dances and I was in fitness competitions and just anything that would let a future employer know that I could kind of bring value in terms of aesthetic things. So getting a job in any capacity, I think is good. There are some people that say you can take certification courses and, oh, you're certified in Botox or you're certified in fillers. To be honest, that doesn't go very far because people want experience. I mean, it takes years to feel confident injecting, years. And so one certification course or two isn't going to do much. I do know of a couple people that have gotten in working with recruiters and spending thousands and thousands of dollars on, like I said, classes and things like that. So it's not impossible. But I would say, in short, get a job in any capacity in one of those specialties, have a really good cover letter, be open maybe about talking about your personal experience with it. And then if you really, really want to get in, you can spend the extra money on classes and perhaps working with an aesthetic recruiter.
Oh, that's such good insight. It's related a little bit to my career. And I remember back when I started as a derm, it was super hard to get a job. And I even went to work for free or shadowed a clinic for a week or two. And as you said, you have such a great personality, and I'm pretty sure you convince people very easily. So I think that's cool to take this advice and hope that helps all the young nurses out there who want to enter the aesthetic industry.
Yeah, it's not impossible. It's hard, but it's not impossible.
Nothing is easy in life, right? Otherwise, everyone would do it. So
that's right. That's right.
Cool. Rachel, how did you get started on Instagram and how did you gain this great success?
So this is, again, I'm going to try to not be so wordy because I just could talk for hours. But so when I first started my Instagram.
You're welcome.
Okay. When I first started my Instagram, I think it was in 2017 or 2018. And I just started it because as a newer injector back then, having like 1 year of experience or two, I thought that that's what you were supposed to do. I thought you were supposed to have an Instagram and just post before and after pictures on your Instagram, like you'll see a lot of injectors doing. But I learned over the years that it was actually so much more than that. So I just started with like basically just posting whatever decent pictures I could find. But then as time went on, I was like, I want more patients in my office, and I wanted a little bit of more marketing help from my practice, but they were kind of more focused on marketing for surgery, which is fine. And so I thought, well, I guess I'm going to need to do this myself. Like if I want to get more patients, if I want to grow my practice, if I want to kind of stand out and make an impact, I'm going to need to start taking this more seriously instead of just randomly posting a, before and after picture with bad lighting. And so I started following, the first thing I started doing is I started following marketing people. So I think what a lot of people do is they just follow other injectors and say, oh, look, this content of theirs is doing well. Maybe I should do something like that. Or this is a popular topic. Maybe I should post about that. But what I did is I started following marketing experts that don't talk anything about aesthetics, right? That you followed a few really big ones in the industry, and then I started applying their content to my niche, okay, which is obviously injections or aesthetic education. And then what I did, I tried to use as much of their content, their free content as I could, but I was still struggling So then I paid for monthly marketing membership. So like lots of time people have a membership saying, oh, you can look at all of our courses, you can look at all of our classes. And so I did that for 2 different people for a few months, but I was like still needed somebody to hold my hand. I was still struggling. I was getting better. And a lot of the stuff that they were saying made sense, but it was just so time consuming. I really felt like I needed personal help. And so I ended up hiring an Instagram coach. Now I kind of compare that to like having a personal trainer, right? Like you can have a personal trainer, but if you don't do the work, nothing's going to happen. So I hired a coach who was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I changed my life, but I did all the work on my own, but he just said, okay, don't do this. Don't say that. You said this wrong. People won't know what that means. You used the wrong color. This doesn't have enough contrast. You need to I mean, it was like intense. Yeah. And so I worked with him, and then I had somebody professionally review my profile to see what looked wrong about it. I studied font psychology. I studied color psychology. I looked at other users in my industry that were doing well and what type of posts people liked that they had that performed well. Anything that you could think of, I did to try to make my account success. And then I'm sure you've heard this before, but one of the things that really helps in terms of growing your account is having a post. And I hate this word because I'm so not a social media person, believe it or not. But if you have a post that quote unquote goes viral, that will give you a huge jump start. And that's what happened to me because I'd been working and practicing and trying to figure out so much what people liked about what I was putting out there, that one of my posts ended up quote unquote going viral. And then I got a massive number of followers for that. But you have to think, just because one post goes viral, that doesn't mean your account's going to be a success. If you don't have other content on your account that is similar to the one that people liked, then it's not going to go anywhere, right? Like if you go to a shoe store and you see one amazing pair of shoes or like that you saw online and you go to the store and that's the only pair of shoes that they have, you're not going to be interested in that store, right? So after the one post went viral, there was lots of other content on my account to support it. So that was definitely helped, but I put an insane amount of work into growing my account, and it was very, very difficult and still is really difficult.
So Rachel, you probably would recommend to work with a coach? Where do you find these good people? Probably there are a lot of offers out there, but not every offer is really good and every coach is really good. Where do you find these people? What have you spent on this?
Oh gosh, yeah, and I'm very open in talking about it. But so I mean, when I tried to choose a coach, right, I picked just like in our industry, right, like you gravitate, and it's kind of weird, but you gravitate towards the people with a large number of followers because there are hundreds and thousands of other people just like yourself that have trusted these people, right? And you can tell if they have genuine followers or not based on how many accounts or what type of engagement they have. And so I found 3 or 4 accounts in particular that I felt like really resonated with me and made sense to me and that were easy to understand. And so I chose a couple bigger accounts, and then I reached out to one of them and, just to inquire. And I was really kind of blown away at how expensive it was. So the coach that I worked with in particular, it was a tiered system. So if you worked with him for a year, it was $1,000 US dollars a month. If you worked with him for 6 months, it was $1,250 a month. And if you worked with him for 3 months, it was $1,500 a month. That's a lot of money, right? I mean, to me, that's a lot of money to me. And so I was like, you know what, how bad do I want this? Do I really want to grow my account? Do I really want to bring more business? How bad do I want it? And I decided that because I'd done so much on my own without success, trying to do it on my own, trying to do memberships, trying to study on my own and still not kind of having any growth, I decided that it was worth it for me. And it was the best decision I ever made. So
cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of them on there. You just have to pick somebody that their content resonates with you. If it makes sense to you and it clicks with you, then that's a good sign that might be a good person for you.
Cool. Rachel, do you think you could gain the same success if you would start today with your Instagram? I mean, 2017 was some kind of the early years, and all the great accounts were starting around then. I think Subio and Julie Horn, but many claim that it's very difficult to start off today with a new account and gain followers. Or would you
disagree with that?
I would disagree, and this is why. I mean, I definitely think that there's more people now trying to grow their account, but when I say I started my account in 2017, that's not when I took it seriously. I only took it seriously the last year and a half, where I started paying for things and researching. I started trying to do my own marketing research about a year and a half ago. So my actual big growth happened last October. So I definitely think it's possible to I think there's still room for everyone if you add value to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
100.
it's too late. It's very hard, but it's not too late because I was late to the game. And again, I'm not a social media person. I don't have a personal Facebook. Like I don't,
Yeah.
it's definitely possible. It's very hard, but I don't think it's too late.
What happened last October? What's the reason for this?
So I started working with I started doing my own like personal research maybe early 2022, and then I got really fed up not having any success. And so I started working with my coach in June or July, and then October is when my first reel went viral, and then it just kind of, and I've had a few that have, and it's not all about a viral reel. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's when I hit the biggest growth was last October. And it just happened pretty quickly. So it's not impossible to grow. It's definitely more competitive. It is definitely more competitive. So your content definitely has to stand out. Your pictures have to stand out. I mean, the stuff that you say has to be easy for people to follow. It has to be concise. There's a million kind of rules that you have to go by in order to stand out amongst people, but it's possible.
Quality content is the key. I think you're absolutely right. And you can see all along the great accounts, and they really deliver quality content. And, I love it. Great. Would you share some strategies? How did you employ to build a strong and engaged audience?
Mm-hmm. So the number one thing that I think you need to do is figure out and people talk about this a lot, but figure out who your ideal customer or your ideal follower is, right? We in the aesthetic industry are already a little bit more challenged because, at least in my demographic, about 99% of the people that I treat are women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's not the same. It's different in other cities and maybe other parts of the world, but you have to think you're already cutting out half of the population, right?
Yeah.
So you're already cutting out half of the population that you can reach, which makes it really difficult. And then on top of that, there's usually a certain age group that's more attracted to the things that we do, right? Like, I mean, again, this is highly variable based on demographics. I mean, in the office, I have patients from 18 all the way up to late 70s. But in general, I thought about the average age of the people that I see in the office and thinking maybe those are going to be the ages that are going to be interested in following me. And what do people get most frequently in the office? So, I mean, most injectors know that if somebody is new to injectables, they tend to start with a neurotoxin, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a filler. So it's kind of the gateway drug, I like to call it. So posts on like neurotoxins, for example, tend to do better than ones on filler because more people relate to those. So you have to think about who your ideal follower is, or who your ideal kind of customer would be. What type of stuff are they into? So I thought a lot about that. And then looking at the insights is also super helpful. I think we may have a question on this later, but seeing which type of content people save, right? So when somebody saves something, that tells you that it's really valuable to them. Usually people save educational content, or when somebody shares something, usually it's something funny. Or if you want maybe somebody to book a consult, you would ask them to message you. So if they message you after a piece of content, that tells you that they're really interested in your services. So you have to pay attention to what type of insight, we have to pay attention to your insights and see how each piece of content performs. And then say you see a piece of content, like maybe a reel that you made that tons of people have saved, that should be a huge green light for you to create similar content on that topic or that style.
How did you balance out that you have advice from this coach on one side, then you want to be authentic, and then you have the demand from your audience? How did you find your way to develop your style?
Mm-hmm. So this was really hard for me because I am naturally somebody that likes to over explain things. Okay, I over educate, I over explain in the office, which I think a lot of patients like. I make it really, really clear for them. So
You
that's
should be a trainer. You should be a trainer.
You know what's funny is that in like in nursing school, not nursing school, excuse me, when I was working on like the step down ICU is most of my clinical experience. So when I was working in those types of specialties, they would always ask me if I wanted to be a preceptor for like a new grad nurse or have the new nurse because and I'm very humble about this, but I do think that I have a decent way of making things clear to people. And so I
Yeah.
think that it's my passion and it's a gift that I have. And I just love it because it helps people. I've been in situations where you're being taught things and it's difficult to understand. And I don't like that. So
Mhm.
I was like, I just love making stuff easy for people. So but yeah, so naturally, I think I have a gift for teaching. So that is something that I really wanted to employ with my strategy. Now, what was hard for me is that my coach, and this is just a general true rule, you cannot make things too lengthy or over explained. You
Mhm.
have to make it simple. And that was really hard because reels, for example, the shorter they are, the more people that they're going to reach. And so it's
Okay.
really hard. It's really hard to kind of make some of this stuff concise, but I had to force myself to do that. So that definitely took some adapting.
That's the same, that's the same with public speaking. I have a speaker coach, and when I prepare a speech, he always says, listen, it's far too much information, too many topics you want to cover. Just cut it down to the key message and really delete the rest. And we're just working on a TED Talk, and it started like being 20 minutes. Now it's 10 minutes. But it's a cool process to distill the value of your message. Great, great. What do you think about collaborations and partnerships? So I had a call or talk with Subio and asked him how he thinks you could or should grow nowadays. And he said, have collaborations and partnerships. What is your opinion on that?
So you know what? My account is really unique in that all the growth I've had has been just kind of from my educational content. I've yet to do a collaboration or a paid partnership with anybody. And it's just so I don't have a lot of experience on that, but I do think that if you're collaborating with somebody, it needs to be somebody that has a similar kind of type of account or account with similar value. Because, for example, if somebody with 100,000 followers gets asked to collaborate with somebody with 2,000 followers on a different topic or on a different specialty, that might benefit the 2,000 follower person, but it doesn't add as much value to the 100,000 person. So I've actually talked to my coach about that, and he said if you do collaborations, they need to be obviously with somebody that whose goals and kind of topics and niche align with yours, but also somebody whose account or their followers are going to add value or may see value in your content, right? Like it wouldn't make sense for somebody that's all about thread lifts to collaborate with somebody that doesn't ever do thread lifts or talk about thread lifts with two different sized accounts. So I think that they can be valuable, and I've followed people from people's collaborations before, and I think they're great, but only if both people are getting value out of it.
Great. Would you work with a brand if a brand would reach out? What are the criteria to choose the right brand? And
Right. You know, brands have reached out to me, but one thing that I am trying to be careful about is because all of my content has been strictly educational. I'm nervous, and I'm not against it, but I'm nervous about turning it into posts that, people can tell when they're, they're branding or when they're paid posts and things like that. And I'm so not a salesy person. It's really hard for me to take that step because I don't want my account to feel like I'm trying to get people to buy stuff.
yeah.
I have a no soliciting sign on my front door. Like, I hate those people in the mall that come up to you at those little kiosks that try to sell you something. It's just so not my jam. And so I haven't done any of those, but I would if it's something I was really passionate about. Like, there have been a few people or companies that have reached out to me, but it wasn't something that was so mind-blowing to me till I felt like I would want to post about it regularly. So I definitely, it would have to be something that I was like, wow, I'm obsessed with this. I believe in this. I want to tell my patients about this, I would. But so far, someone hasn't approached me with I guess a product or an idea that I feel that strongly about.
Cool. Rachel, you mentioned that topic prior or earlier at this talk, and I have the same problem. Social media, or doing social media properly, is so time consuming. And as you know, I have several companies, and I'm working Sunday and Saturday, and it cut off most of my personal life. But and even then, I don't manage to really do proper social media. What is your strategy on balancing family, your work as an injector, and the demand on time on social media? How do you balance that?
So this is probably the biggest struggle I have right now. It's extremely difficult. I mean, to have a successful Instagram account, and that's just one platform, but to have a successful account, I mean, it could literally be a full-time job, like literally full-time. And I already have a full-time job, and I already have a 4-year-old, and it's very, very hard. It wasn't as hard at the beginning before the account got big, right? Because I was so dedicated to trying to grow my account that I just focused like 24/7 and thinking of ideas and creating content and recording every weekend and things like that. And then, of course, after it got big, I don't have time to do that, because when your account grows, you have 10 times as many comments people leave it on your post. You have 10 times as many direct messages. You know, in my case, you're seeing more people in the office, so you're busier in the office. And so it kind of shifted to trying to respond to all the comments and messages to kind of keep your followers or your audience engaged and show that you kind of care about them and you appreciate the fact that they're following you. So I've definitely noticed a switch from having less time to create content to trying to spend more time engaging with the people that started to follow me. But I have noticed when you stop creating content, I mean, and again, it's not all about followers. That's not what it's all about. But it does start to go down. Like if you take a big lull, you will, you're going to lose some of the activity on your account. And so what I try to tell myself at the end of the day, my son is the most important thing, just like everyone. Your family is going to be your most important thing. The second most important thing are the people that are paying you in your office, right? They're the ones that are paying you for a service. They're the patients that you need to take care of. And at the end of the day, Instagram takes a backseat. And, it's hard because I used to stress out about it really bad. But now I'm just like, if I get time to create it, I will. And that if I don't, I'm going to take care of my family, and I'm going to take care of the patients that are actually helping pay my bills,
But how many hours would you assume does it take per week to?
This is really hard. So I, again, work Monday through Friday, and I have a little son that I have to pick up from school and, make dinner and all that normal stuff. So there's virtually no time during the week. And so what I'll try to do is on the weekend, because a lot of my content is reels, I'll spend a few hours recording. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit faster now, but maybe like 3 to 4 hours recording a bunch of reels all at the same time on the weekend. But again, what you can do is if you and I've gotten a lot better at this, is write down all of your ideas. Like if for reels, for example, write down all of your ideas and your scripts and what you want to say beforehand. If you just get in front of the camera and you hit record and you try to think of ideas as you go, you're going to be stuck there 10 times longer than if you already have laid out what you want to say, right? So writing out exactly what you want to say. You can even write out like what you want to talk, like what you want to point to, what pictures you want to show. If you have a game plan, it's going to go significantly quicker.
Right.
So having an idea before is good. And then also templates is another thing. Like if you're somebody that posts a lot of carousels or static posts, using the same templates and not trying to reinvent the wheel gets really helpful. If you just changed the actual font of your templates, that helps a lot as well.
But 3 to 4 hours is already huge, right? I mean, it's every weekend, and I mean, your weekend is for your family. You spend 3 to 4 hours. It's incredible. Yeah. Do you have some effective techniques or tips to share how to create visual, appealing, and engaging content?
Right. So this is where I think a lot of people go wrong. Even if you're not trying to grow your account, there are basic marketing tips that people should follow to keep people engaged. So like don't have and this is a lot of this may be common knowledge to people, but don't have a million different types of font on your feed, because people recognize consistency. and they like things that are a little bit more simple. So pick 1 to 2 fonts and stick with those fonts and don't make it too complicated. Use consistent colors throughout your feed. This isn't mandatory, but people do notice, again, a cohesive kind of brand when they come to your profile if they see consistent fonts and consistent colors. Make sure your fonts have enough contrast with your background. I see a lot of times people having a really pale light background with a white font, and it's just really hard on the eyes. I mean, all of these little details you have to pay attention to, because if somebody sees something, there's not enough contrast, it's too hard to read, even if it's subconscious, they're already going to move past. So you have to make it very easy for them. The biggest issue I see people doing when creating aesthetic educational content anyway is putting too much text on one slide. Again, people want stuff that is easy. They just want to be able to kind of glance at it, simple sentences, not a whole paragraph on one slide, or you're going to use people. Know the topics that your audience wants to see, okay? And you can do this by going and looking at your insights, going and looking at your last post. Which one did people like the most? Which one did people save the most? Which one had the most shares? And then try to duplicate your best performing content. If you do that, you're going to be successful. If you're working on reels, the shorter they are, the better, okay? Because you have a few seconds to capture somebody's attention with a good and engaging hook, and you only have a few seconds before somebody swipes. And I hate that it's like that, but it is what it is, you know. And once you grow an account, you have an opportunity to talk about things for longer and have longer videos. But if your goal is growth at the beginning, the reels need to be a little bit shorter. If you don't have time to create your own kind of slideshows or carousels, you can find an affordable graphic designer to help create that content as well.
Yes, you're right. To make people stop scrolling on Instagram, you really have to offer amazing and attractive content. Rachel, how do you deal with criticism if you ever face it?
People are mean. People are so they're mean. But the thing is, what's good about me is that I have really thick skin, like really thick skin. So it's very, very hard to offend me. But I know not everyone's like that. And so it's really helpful to have thick skin, but there are always going to be people, even if they're not like saying rude things about me personally, there are always going to be people who are against neurotoxin, who say, oh, you're injecting poison into your face, or, oh, if you give filler, you're going to look like Madonna, or, oh, you're polluting our youth, or who calls you God that you needed. I mean, you name it, I've heard it. And so I kind of have a rule. Like if there's all these negative comments, right? It depends on how bad they are. Like if somebody's saying something overtly rude and disrespectful, either to you or your patient that you posted a picture of, I just immediately block them, because out of sight, out of mind, number one. But number two, we don't want to give this person another opportunity to come back on another one of your posts and say something negative again. So if somebody's going to be that ugly, I just block them. You know, there are people that, will think they know more about your industry than you, right? Like, oh, you know, neurotoxin is a poison. You're injecting a poison into your face. Is it a poison? Yes, it is, right? But I mean, they don't know that
everything is a poison.
Everything's a poison. You know, and so sometimes if I feel really passionate about the topic, or I want to make sure that my followers or potential patients know the truth, I will respond to people that try to put a fact out there that isn't true, right? I will give my scientific evidence. I will feel confident in my comment. But after that one time, I usually don't go back and forth, because there's some people that I guess they have no time or no job, I don't know, but will literally go back and forth with you, and it's just not worth it. You're never going to meet these people. It's never going to go anywhere. And this is time that you could be spending engaging with your, you know, followers or creating content. It's just a waste of time. I try to respond to every negative comment in the beginning, and I was just like, this is so stupid. This is such a waste of time. So I usually just ignore them or block them, or make sure I have my facts in a row if I'm going to rebut them.
What kind of advice would you give a young nurse who just is starting off and maybe suffering from insecurity?
Yeah, so one thing that I do is I never post about stuff that is guaranteed to be controversial, ever. I mean, it's just as a professional, right? Because we're all humans, we all have personalities, but at the end of the day, at least my account is a professional account. I don't talk about personal stuff too much. So people are seeing you as a professional injector or aesthetic provider. So I would stay away from stuff that you know is going to stir the pot. It's just not worth it. I mean, as some people, and I'm not saying like, oh, this neurotoxin is better than this neurotoxin. Well, people are going to have opinions about that. But I'm talking about like political issues or social issues or financial things. I just don't even go there, right? Because don't give people an opportunity to start drama with you. So that's number one. If you post content that is 100% true and accurate, you're going to have limited people being able to say negative things about your content, right? Delete that, like I said, delete the comments that make you feel uncomfortable, right? Like not everyone feels confident enough to respond back to somebody that's being negative. But if there's something that makes you feel like, for example, I posted a before and after a picture of a patient of mine, and she has fake eyelashes on, right? Like we can't control if our patients have fake eyelashes on. She had a great transformation, but so many people were like, oh my God, she looks so bad. Look at her fake eyelashes. And it's just like, delete and block those people. That's so rude. And it's just like your patient's giving you an opportunity to showcase their work, and people that are going to have negative things to say about it, you just need to immediately delete and block them. So I would say, just in short, try to post content that you know is true and accurate. Try to post before and afters that are consistent in terms of lighting and makeup, because people will say things like, oh, well, she only looks better because her head is this way or her makeup looks different. And so if you, again, true, honest content that's supported, by techniques or scientific evidence, that's not controversial, you're not going to have that many people being rude to you. And I try to do that a lot. I try to only post stuff that I know works and that actually makes sense. Like if I say, oh, you can get facelift results by getting Botox here, obviously that's not going to go over well. And people are going to, say negative things.
Rachel, when we met in Miami, you told me you're working super, super hard, sometimes even 16 hours per day, and you have a family. How do you keep being inspired and motivated?
So, well, it hasn't been good lately, again, because I've been just so busy. And like I said, I put Instagram on the back burner if my life is too crazy, right? Because life comes first. And so I actually haven't done as well lately, but you have to think about why you're doing it. Are you doing it because you want to prove a point to yourself? Are you doing it because you want more patients in your office? Are you doing it because you just want to get more personal experience, feeling comfortable in front of the camera? You have to think about what your reason is for wanting to grow your account. Mine was that I wanted to market myself more and have more patients come into my office, right? And so I had a decently full schedule before this, but I just wanted to see how much more I could do. So if you think about, why did I start this Instagram or this social media journey in general? Okay, so remind yourself why you did it to keep you motivated. I also think it's really important not to compare your content to others. This is going to make people feel very defeated very quickly. So, I mean, like, for example, people see that I have again, it's not huge, but a decent following and think, oh my gosh, wow, I wonder how she did that. I'll never get to that point, blah, blah, blah. Well, they don't know that it took me years and thousands of dollars to get to this point. So you never know. Or maybe somebody got a shout out and got lucky. I mean, you just don't know what someone's gone through or how they got to that point. So only compare yourself to yourself and think about, okay, where was I a month ago? Have I done better than that? Or maybe if I try to recreate this piece of content, it will do well. But if you spend time scrolling and comparing and looking what everyone else is doing, you are going to get extremely discouraged. So I definitely wouldn't do that. I would only compare yourself to yourself, not, and set milestones for comparing yourself to your own goal, like better than last month, better than last quarter. Another thing that I think is super helpful is I'm more of like an old school person. So I have like a notebook that as soon as I think of an idea, or if I see an idea somewhere or something that sounds cool, I'll write it down in a little notebook. So I have ideas that I kind of already have. But if you think of something in your head and you don't put it on paper, you don't put it in your phone, then you're going to be trying to scramble to get ideas last minute. So you'll think of ideas all throughout the day as you start creating more content. And then if you have something to keep track of those, it's going to be easier when you sit down to create it.
How important is consistency for the success on Instagram And how do you be consistent without compromising on quality?
It's really important. So if the purpose of your Instagram is to monetize or to make money, right? Which at the end of the day, I think that's what everyone's goal is, right? Is to make money in one way or another, because it's like it's a huge expense of time. And if you're not generating money from it, what are you doing? So if the purpose of your account is to make money, consistency is really important. So if you think like we're in the business of mostly people have to come into a physical building or office location to see us, right? So if you are one, it's not like you can make money on, I mean, some people can, like selling, I don't know, skincare products or masks or whatever they sell. But most of us make money by injecting or doing lasers or treatments like that. So if you want someone to trust you, they have to see your consistency, your brand, your personality. If you're posting once a week or once every 2 weeks and you've never interacted with them, the chances are they're never going to become a customer or they're never going to become a patient. But if you post consistently and you provide content that shows that a patient can trust you, right? If you've corresponded with them in the comments, if you've corresponded with them in the DMs, relationships are built in your messages, right? So if you're personally responding to people, they're going to feel a connection with you. They're going to be more likely to trust you. So if you want patients physically in your office, consistency is super important. And I've noticed I've noticed less engagement, less followers and things like that when I do not post consistently. Like it's a real thing. And so it is consistent. And even if your consistency is like twice a week, if all you can post is twice a week, maybe make it a goal from 1 week out of the month to post one more time. If you could just do like 5 or 10%, let's just stick with 5. If you could do 5% more than you've been doing, then even that in itself will be helpful.
Rachel, are you engaged on any other platforms?
So I did try that, but again, I was so overwhelmed and so busy that I haven't. So what I have is I have a TikTok. I'm not big on it. I haven't been on it in months. And I have a YouTube. So as most people know, you can take your same video posts from one platform and reshare them to another platform. And so what I did, and I think TikTok I only did it because my coach was like, oh, you should, try to get on other platforms, use your same content. But I was really late to TikTok. So I don't ever anticipate that being a big thing. But a few months ago, I was sharing to both YouTube Shorts and TikTok, but I felt so overwhelmed that I thought Instagram is my main account. I'm just going to focus on that. But it is kind of easy to just download your videos and reshare them. And if somebody is going to do that and they are in a situation where they're feeling overwhelmed, like what I did on my TikTok and YouTube is I said I only respond to comments and messages on Instagram because I literally just by myself. Like I don't have anyone to help me. So I said, this is the only platform that I'm going to engage with people on. So if you want to talk to me, you can come over there.
How deep are you diving into conversations on Instagram with your patients? Do you keep it short and try to lead them into your clinic, or are you fine by further educate them and keeping up the conversation for a while?
So it depends on what the question is, right? So one thing that I really struggled with was sometimes people will ask a question like, oh, my injector did neurotoxin here and look at my eyebrow and it looks messed up. And I would at first try to respond to every single person. But it got really time consuming. And I noticed that I was not creating content because I was trying to spend so much time responding to people. So, and I'm such a giving person. I would try to give as much free advice as I could, but people would start sending me pictures of their face and say, oh, can you tell me what I need? And I like my assessments are so detailed. I mean, like hairline to neck, every asymmetry, every fine line, anything that they could benefit from to look younger or, more aesthetically pleasing, I would go over with them. And I'm thinking, this is taking me like an hour. Like I can't keep doing this. So I did end up kind of creating a message that I could send to people when they were asking for quote unquote free advice, saying, what do I need? Tell me what I need, what my injector needs, saying, I would love to do this for you. But unfortunately, I need to respect the patients that have set aside time to schedule a consultation with me. If you'd like to do that, here's the link. So I've gotten a lot better at kind of drawing the line when people are asking for, I don't want to call it free advice because I have no problem giving free advice. But when it comes to a detailed full facial assessment, I just can't do that because time is money, But if someone has like a serious issue, like a complication, I'll always respond. I try to get to most of the comments. But again, if your account gets busier, you're going to have to prioritize the comments of people who are asking genuine questions, the ones that may turn into customers, not ones that are just, talking negatively, or, you have to prioritize ones that may turn into a true patient. So I try to get to everyone. I just don't have time. So you have to prioritize which people seem genuine, which ones will kind of turn into an actual patient for you.
How do you check on data and insights on Instagram, and how important are they for you?
So I did that a lot in the beginning. It's really important to do that in the beginning because it gives you an idea of the type of content that your followers or potential followers like. But before insights, one thing that I think is super important for people if you're trying to grow your account is to make sure that your bio is optimized. So lots of times I'll see injector pages that have like a menu of services like fillers, toxin, fat dissolver, lasers. Okay, well, people already know what you do because you say right there that you're an aesthetic injector or you're this type of provider. So I think that's kind of a waste of space. What your bio should be doing is it's like a billboard for your account. So if people go to your account and they're going to read your bio, they're going to scan for like a few seconds. And if they don't like what they see or they don't like the content on your page, they're going to move on. So your bio is your personal billboard. It needs to say who you are, what you do, why people should trust you, and why they should follow you. You should say consistent in your tone of voice, your colors, things like that. So number one most valuable piece of advice I think it can give for people is making sure that your bio is optimized, because that is a snapshot of what people are going to get when they follow you. But in terms of insights, there's a few that I pay attention to. So on static posts or like carousels, ones that are not videos, you can go and look at how many followers you got from that type of post, how many new followers. You can't do that with Reels, at least not yet. But if you notice that a piece of your content you got new followers from, then that is either a style or a topic that you're going to want to try to repeat. Okay. If you look at a piece of content that you made and it has a lot of saves, that's super important, because that piece of content is valuable enough for somebody that they're going to want to come back and reference it later. If somebody is sharing something, then that is another thing that gives you insight that something is really valuable, because they value it so much that they want to tell other people about it. Likes are good, and I think people get fixated on likes, but likes are not the most important insight in my opinion. It would definitely be saves. It would definitely be shares. And then, of course, looking at the content that people follow you from. Another thing that they started testing out on Reels, I'm not sure if everybody has it, but it allows you to see watch time, average watch time. So if you're looking at one of your Reels that's 30 seconds long, and you see that the average person watched it for 10 seconds, then at about the 10-second mark, somebody lost interest. So you need to go back and look at your content and see what you maybe did wrong. Was there a long pause? Did you say a word that somebody doesn't understand? So in terms of Reels, watch time, I think, is a helpful one.
You touched on this topic at the beginning of the podcast, that you felt insecure during your time in high school and you had no boyfriend, and that you did some treatments on yourself. Do you think they made you feel more confident, or do you think they don't have any impact?
Again, I was a really awkward adolescent. I mean, that's a super awkward age for anybody, right? But it was really skinny, I just very tall, very skinny, just like bigger nose, just braces like the rest of us, bigger ears, just awkward. And we didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I didn't, have super nice clothes or all the stuff that kids worry about as an adolescent that we later learn in life doesn't mean anything. And it wasn't necessarily the no boyfriend thing, but it does make you feel some kind of way if you're in high school and you've never been asked to a dance. I mean, that's like one thing that people look like I never went to a prom at all, just I never got asked. And so I think that maybe my insecurity was innate. I don't necessarily think it had to do with, not ever being asked to dance, but I just think naturally I was a little bit more insecure. And
It's
so,
hard to believe, Rachel. From
well,
today's perspective, it's really hard to believe because you look amazing.
well, you're not. You're sweet, but I've had a lot of work done. So I had my first nose job actually at a couple months before I turned 18. I had my first nose job at 17 years old. And lots of people think that's crazy, but I did. And I've had several actually. And do I think that it's helped me? Do I think doing things help me feel more confident? Absolutely. Like 100% absolutely. Is it a cure for innate insecurity? No way. No way. Because people that are innately insecure will continue doing little things to make them, they'll think that it's going to make them feel better. And it does. But oftentimes, I don't think it fixes the root of the problem, whatever it may be, whether it be something from childhood or, who knows what a bad relationship, who knows what it is. So I definitely think I'm in a much better, more confident place now in my late 30s than I was kind of 10, 15 years ago. But I do think that if somebody has a deep-rooted insecurity, doing work doesn't always fix it. But it definitely helps, I've had a lot done, a lot. And again, I'm still not 100% happy with the way that I look. But one of the cool things about this industry is that for some people, doing these little things is all they need to feel better about themselves. Like maybe somebody had these tiny little bird lips, like Julie's talked about before when they were younger and they got made fun of. If you just give them one little syringe of lip filler, I mean, it can change their life. It could change their life, or like someone constantly looking angry. Well, if you give them neurotoxin and you soften this look and people are stopping saying, oh, you look so mad, you look so angry, it changes people's lives. It's just so amazing. So it's definitely had a positive impact on me, but it's not a cure for insecurity by any
I
means.
think we talked about this. I think we talked about it in Miami, that we have huge impact on people, even with tiny treatments and tweaks. And I think it's amazing. My last question, Rachel, and I ask this question everyone on this show. What do you think will our industry look like in 20 or 30 years?
That's super hard for me, again, because I haven't been following social media trends. Like up until this, I didn't have a personal Facebook. I didn't have a personal Instagram. I'm not a super, like social media person, believe it or not. And I don't think I'm quote unquote an influencer. Lots of people use that term, but because I don't work with things that I sell or that help other companies sell things, it's hard for me to see the landscape on that. But what I do think is that patients are getting, and they should, are getting more responsible, and they're starting to advocate for themselves more. They're paying more attention to, they're researching procedures, they're researching providers, they're knowing what looks unnatural, they're able to tell if a before and after picture is a fair comparison. So I think that in terms of us creating content online, or those of us that create content online for people, it needs to be transparent. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be realistic, and what can, realistic in terms of results, because patients, it's not just like they believe anything that they see anymore, and they shouldn't, and I really value putting content forward that is honest and true, and results that can actually be achieved, and telling people the truth. So I think that, in short, I think patients are getting smarter, and they should. No one, it should never be any other way. But I think that moving forward, if you want to be able to stay relevant, that you're going to need to be honest and transparent more than anything else.
Great. Oh, I love this podcast. And it was your first podcast, right? You did so good. Thank you so much. Thank you.